Oh my god. Dude, I feel like I should go get a book. I I do have a book. I could just start reading from it until I start hearing music again. Is this game using the same font that I'm using? Conthrax? Or looks like it. I mean, my computer's not setting on fire or anything. Oh my god. I'm I'm gonna go get that book. Oh, let's see here. Uh, there's a couple here I could go for. Let's see here. I think I will pass on the zombie survival guide. Let's see. How does this start off? And we got one cutscene and then a loading screen that takes like a half hour. All right, so I guess I'm intentionally stalling, hoping that like the game's gonna start soon. I won't have to hold myself to reading from this book. But I guess I'm gonna do it. This is Software by Rudy Rucker. All right, chapter one. Cobb Anderson would have held out. Let me try that sentence again. Already, this is going swimmingly. Cobb Anderson would have held out longer, but you don't see dolphins every day. There were 20 of them, 50, rolling in the little gray waves, wicketing up out of the water. It was good to see them. Cobb took it for a sign and went out for his evening sherry an hour early. The screen door slapped shut behind him, and he stood uncertainly for a moment, dazed by the late afternoon sun. Did I read that right? Yes. Annie Cushing watched him from her window in the cottage next door. Beatles music drifted out past her. You forgot your hat, she advised. He was still a good-looking man, barrel-chested and bearded like Santa Claus. She wouldn't have minded getting it on with him if he weren't so... Wow. What? This is 2 paragraphs in. What the fuck? Look at the dolphins, Annie. I don't need a hat. Look at how happy they are. I don't need a hat, and I don't need a wife. This is paragraph 3 already. Wow. He started toward the asphalt road, stiffly, walking stiffly across the crushed white shells. Annie went back to brushing her hair. Yep. She wore it white and long, and she kept it thick with hormone spray. I've not read this book before, so I don't know how this is going to go. She was 60 and not too brittle to hug. She wondered idly if Cobb would take her to the Golden Prom next Friday. Is this book about, like, computers at some point? I will see. The long last chord of Day in the Life hung in the air. Yep. Annie couldn't have said which song she had just heard. After 50 years, her responses to the music were all but extinguished. But she walked across the room to turn the stack of records over. If only something would happen, she thought for the 1000th time. I get so tired of being me. At the Superette, Cobb selected a chilled quart of cheap sherry and a damp paper bag of boiled peanuts, and he wanted something to look at. Yeah? The Superette magazine selection was nothing compared to what you could get over in Coco. Okay. Cobb settled finally for a love ad newspaper called Kiss and Tell. It was always good and weird. Most of the advertisers were 70-year-old hippies like himself. He folded the first picture under so that only the headline showed, "Please feeze me." Pheeze. Okay. Funny how long you can laugh at the same jokes, Cobb thought, waiting to pay. Sex seemed odder all the time. He noticed the man in front of him wearing a light blue hat blocked from plastic mesh. Wearing a light blue hat blocked from plastic mesh. I'm not exactly sure what that sentence means. If Cobb concentrated on the hat, he saw an irregular blue cylinder. But he let himself look through the holes in the mesh. If, if he let himself look through the holes in the mesh, he could see the meek curve of the bald head underneath, skinny neck, and a light bulb head clawing in his change. A friend. Hey, Farker. Farker finished rounding up his nickels, then turned his body around. He spotted the bottle. Happy hour came early today. Ooh, I'm not sure I know this word. A note of remonstrance? Is that like the opposite of being, of like demonstrative? No? That's a completely different word. Remonstrance. It's broken up too, so it's throwing me off. Parker worried about Cobb. It's Friday. Fees me tight. Oh god. What is fees? I have a feeling this is like not the first book in this series. Maybe it is, I don't know. 785, cashier said to Cobb. Her white hair was curled and Hennaed? Hennaed? Period, end of sentence. She had a deep tan. Her flesh had a pleasingly used and oily look to it. This is... I need to flip forward and see if there's, like... Like, does this get to computers at all, or did I get sold, like, a porn book with a different cover? I'm gonna be very upset if that's the case. Cobb was surprised. He'd already counted money in his hand. Wait. He'd already counted money into his hand. I make it $6.50. Numbers began sliding around in his head. I'm at my box number, cashier said with a toss of her head. In the kiss and tell. Oh. She smiled coyly and took Cobb's money. She was proud of her ad this month. She'd gone to a studio for the picture. Fantastic. Parker handed the paper back to Cobb outside. I can't look at this, Cobb. I'm still a happily married man. God help me. You want a peanut? Thanks. Parker extracted a soggy shell from the little bag. There was no way his spotted and trembling old hands could have peeled the nut, so he popped it whole into his mouth. After a minute, he spit the hull out. How many more pages is this chapter? Okay. Can I push something yet to play a video game? Do I need to, like, reboot? Do I need to get a fire extinguisher? Alright, where was I? They walked towards the beach, eating pasty peanuts. Pasty peanuts? Pasty peanuts. They wore no shirts, only shorts and sandals. The afternoon sun beat pleasantly on their backs. A silent Mr. Frosty truck cruised past. Cobb cracked the screw top on his dark brown bottle and took a tentative first sip. He wished he could remember the box number the cashier had just told him. Numbers wouldn't stay still for him anymore. It was hard to believe he'd ever been a cyber technician? Cybernetician. Aha! We have our first made-up science fiction word. Holy shit. I didn't get sold a bill of goods. Cybernetician. His memory ranged back to his first robots and how they'd learned to bop. Bop. B-O-P. Food drops late again, Farker was saying, and I hear there's a new murder cult up in Daytona. They're called the Little Kidders. Uh-huh. He wondered if Cobb could hear him. Cobb was just standing there with empty, colorless eyes, a yellow strain of sherry on his dense white hair around his lips. Food drop, Cobb said, suddenly coming back. He had a way of re-entering a conversation by confidently booming out the last phrase which had registered. I've still got a good supply. Be sure to eat some of the new food when it comes, Parker cautioned, for the vaccines. I'll tell Annie to remind you. Why is everybody so interested in staying alive? I left my wife and came down here to drink and die in peace. Okay. She can't wait for me to kick off, so why... ... Cobb's voice caught again. The fact of the matter was that he was terrified of death. He took a quick medicinal slug of sherry. If you were peaceful, you wouldn't drink so much, Farker said mildly. Drinking is the sign of an unresolved conflict. No kidding, Cobb said heavily. In the golden warmth of the sun, the sherry had taken quick effect. Yep, this is the way sentences are put together. Here's an unresolved conflict for you. He ran a fingernail. He ran a fingernail down the vertical white scar on his furry chest. I don't have the money for another second-hand heart. In a year or two, this cheapie's going to poop out on me. Farker grimaced. So, use your 2 years. Cobb ran his finger back up the scar as if zipping it up. I've seen what it's like, Farker. I've seen what it's like, Farker. I've had a taste of it. It's the worst thing there is. He shuddered at the dark memory. Teeth, ragged clouds, and fell silent. Okay. Farker glanced at his watch. Time to get going, or Cynthia would... You know what Jimi Hendrix said? Cobb asked. Recalling the quote brought an old resonance back to his voice. When it's my time to die, I'm going to be the one doing it. So long as I'm alive, you let me live my way. Farker shook his head. Face it, Cobb. If you drank less, you'd get a lot more out of life. He raised his hand to cut off his friend's reply. But I've got to get home. Bye-bye. Bye. Cobb walked to the edge of the asphalt over a low dune to the edge of the beach. No one was there today, and he sat down under his favorite palm tree. Aw. Breeze had picked up a little. Warmed by the sand, it lapped at Cobb's face, buried under white whiskers. The dolphins were gone. Dun dun dun! He sipped sparingly at his sherry and let the memories play. There were only 2 thoughts to be avoided. Death and his abandoned wife, Verena? The sherry had kept them away. Some sherry. The sun was going down behind him when he saw the stranger. Oh boy. Barrel chest, erect posture, hello. Strong arms and legs covered with curly hair and a round white beard. Like Santa Claus, or like Ernest Hemingway, the year he shot himself. Hello, Cobb, the man said. He wore sun goggles and looked amused. His shorts and sport shirt glittered. Oh boy. Care for a drink? Cobb gestured at the half-empty bottle. He wondered who, if anyone, he was talking to. No thanks, the stranger said, sitting down. It doesn't do anything for me. Cobb stared at the man. Something about him. ... You're wondering who I am, the stranger said, smiling. I'm you. Oh. You who? You me. There's a back and forth for you. The stranger used Cobb's own little... Here we go. The stranger used Cobb's own tight little smile on him. I'm a mechanical copy of your body. Oh, here we go. I'm a mechanical copy of your body. Nice. The face seemed right. And there's even the scar from the heart transplant. The only difference between them was how alert and healthy the copy looked. Call him Cobb Anderson squared? 2? Just 2. Call him Cobb Anderson 2. Cobb, too, didn't drink. Cobb envied him. He hadn't had a completely sober day since he had the operation and left his wife. That'll do that to you. How did you get here? The robot waved a palm up. Waved a hand palm up, even. Cobb liked the way the gesture looked on someone else. I can't tell you, the machine said. You know how most people feel about us. Cobb chuckled his agreement. He should know. At first, the public had been delighted that Cobb's moon robots had evolved into intelligent boppers. Bopper? There's that word again. I don't know what it means. They use it a lot, even like on the covers of the books and all that. That had been before Ralph Numbers had led the 2001 revolt. After the revolt, Cobb had been tried for treason. He focused back on the present. If you're a bopper, then how can you be here? Cobb waved his hand in a vague circle. taking in the hot sand and setting sun. It's too hot. All the boppers I know of are based on supercooled circuits. You have a refrigeration unit hidden in your stomach. Anderson, too, made another familiar hand gesture. I'm not going to tell you yet, Cobb. Later you'll find out. Just take this. The robot fumbled in its pocket and brought out a wad of bills. 25 grand. Nice. We want you to get on the flight to Diski tomorrow. Ralph Numbers will be your contact up there. He'll meet you at the Anderson room in the museum. Cobb's heart leapt at the thought of seeing Ralph Numbers again. Ralph, his first and finest model. The one who had set all the others free. But is this game gonna load? I'm assuming this game is not gonna load. Holy crap, dude. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm just gonna try resetting it. I need to get my task manager. I can't do it. Task manager, come on. Where's delete? There it is. Alright, we did it. Put him down. Okay. I'm gonna finish up the chapter. But I can't get a visa, Cobb said. You know that. I'm not allowed to leave the Gimme territory. Let us worry about that, the robot said urgently. There'll be someone to help you through the formalities. We're working on it right now. And I'll stand in for you while you're gone. No one will be the wiser. The intensity of his double's tone made Cobb suspicious. He took a drink of sherry and tried to look shrewd. What's the point of all this? Why should I want to go to the moon in the first place? Oh boy. And why do the boppers want me there? Anderson, too, glanced around the empty beach and leaned close. We want to make you immortal, Dr. Anderson. After all you did for us, it's the least we can do. Immortal! The word was like a window flung open. With death so close, nothing had mattered, but if there was a way out... How? Cobb demanded. In his excitement, he rose to his feet. How will you do it? Will you make me young again, too? Take it easy, the robot said, also rising. Don't get overexcited. Just trust us. With our supplies of tank-grown organs, we can rebuild you from the ground up. And you'll get as much interferon as you need. As much as... I can't say that word in a sentence. You'll get as much interferon as you need. The machine stared into Cobb's eyes, looking honest. Staring back, Cobb noticed that they hadn't gotten the irises quite right. The little ring of blue was too flat and even. The eyes were, after all, just glass. Unreadable glass. The double pressed the money into Cobb's hand. Take the money and get the shuttle tomorrow. We'll arrange for a young man called... Stay High? Really? S-T-A-H-I. Stay High. Okay. We'll arrange for a young man named Stay High to help you at the spaceport. Music was playing, wheedling closer. A Mr. Frosty truck, the same one Cobb had seen before. It was white, with a big freezer box in the back. There was a smiling giant plastic ice cream cone mounted on the back of the cab. Back of the cab? Top of the cab. Cobb's, Cobb's double gave him a pat on the shoulder and trotted up the beach. When he reached the truck, the robot looked back and flashed a smile, yellow teeth in the white beard. For the first time in years, Cobb loved himself. The erect strut, frightened eyes. "Goodbye," he shouted, waving the money, "and thanks." Cobb Anderson, too, jumped into the ice cream truck next to the driver, a fat, short-haired man with no shirt. No one's wearing shirts in this book so far. I don't think. And then the Mr. Frosty truck drove off. Its music silenced again. It was dusk now. The sound of the truck's motor faded into the ocean's roar. If only it was true. But it had to be. Cobb was holding $25,000 bills. $25,000 bills. He counted them twice to make sure. He sure did. And then he scrawled the figure 25,000 in the sand and looked at it. That was a lot. That's written there. That was a lot. As the darkness fell, he finished the sherry, and on a sudden impulse, he put the money in the bottle and buried it next to his tree in a meter of sand. Hold on, let me reread this. As the darkness fell, he finished the sherry, and on a sudden impulse, put the money in the bottle and buried it next to his tree in a meter of sand. That's what I thought it said. The excitement was wearing off now, and fear was setting in. Did the Boppers really give him immortality with surgery and interferon? Maybe if you explained to me what the fuck interferon is. It seemed unlikely. A trick! But why would the Boppers lie to him? Surely they remembered all the good things he'd done for him. Maybe they just wanted to show him a good time. God knows he could use it. And it would be great to see Ralph Numbers again. Walking home along the beach, Cobb stopped several times, tempted to go back and dig up that bottle to see if the money was really there. The moon was up, and he could see little sand-colored crabs moving out of their holes. They could shred those bills right up, he thought, stopping again. Hunger growled at his stomach, and he wanted more sherry. Because drinking more is what you do when you're hungry. He walked a little further down the silvery beach, the sand squeaking under his heavy heels. It was bright as day, only all black and white. The full moon had risen over the land to his right. Full moon means high tide, he fretted. He decided that as soon as he'd had a bite to eat, he'd get more sherry and move the money to higher ground. Coming up on his... Oh my god. Where's my drink? Stay hydrated, bot. Save me. Coming up on his moon-silvered cottage from the beach, he spotted Annie Cushing's legs sticking past the corner of her cottage. She was sitting on her front steps, waiting to snag him in the driveway. He angled to the right and came up on his house from behind, staying out of her line of vision. And that's the end of Chapter 1 of Software by Rudy Rucker. Now I'm going to try to play Marvel Avengers again. Lego Marvel Avengers, even.